Hello, Rick and Johnny. Welcome to Turkey.
Thank you.
And we are here for the presentation and conference for the targeted audience and targeted messages for politicians especially. So I would like to ask first of all, like, how could politicians find their targeted audience?
Well, the first thing they have to do is decide for themselves why they're running, and from there, once they've determined that through research, they should be able to get some sense through polling who their target audience should be.
So, and what their message is. So they need to, through their research, discover their message, and then discover their targets, and discover which demographic group, whether it be women between the ages of 35 and 60, that their message appeals to, then that would be in a certain region, then that would be their targeted audience.
Mm-hmm.
So it's matching the message with the demographic groups that are most likely, once they hear the message, to want to vote for that person.
Mm-hmm. And for the politicians, how the message should be?
Well, I think that the message should be something that resonates with the voters, both on an emotional level as well as on a very pragmatic level. That's something that reaches them, the individual, and resonates with the individual. It also has to often do with the direction of a country or a jurisdiction. A good message has direction, values, issues, and some emotional element.
Mm-hmm. And how should politicians treat their targeted audience who have different opinions and expectations and so on?
That's such a good question, because it's true. The message has to become somewhat customizable. So you have to have a broad overall umbrella message, and then within that you have to be able to appeal to the individual voters on an individual basis. It's very difficult.
I just think that often politicians try to appeal to everybody. And if you try to appeal to everybody, you will
lose
fail.
it. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important to keep your broad overall message, and at the same time try to engage meet the voter where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And a targeted voter.
Yeah.
Because your problem is, even those who disagree with you, you're never going to convince them. And you only have a finite amount of time or resources. So why spend time trying to convince those who are never going to agree with you? You have to find those people who are persuadable and focus on them with your message and your activity.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do it through the tools with which you meet them can be face-to-face. It can be at a rally, at a meeting. It can be through the mail. It can be over the telephone. There's all kinds of vehicles. It can be through the internet, through Twitter or for email. There's all kinds of ways. Once you discover what your message is and who your targeted audience is, there's all kinds of ways to communicate with them on a level where they feel comfortable communicating.
Mm-hmm. That's very important.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what are the biggest mistakes that politicians do during their campaign?
They think it's about them, not about the voters.
Right. That's one. And one is thinking that they can convince everyone to vote for them. If they just have enough time or enough money, they can convince everyone.
Mm-hmm.
That's a mistake.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, that there is this belief that you can, if I just talk to everyone, they would vote for me. No.
Yeah.
There's certain people, it's like saying, oh, if I could date every woman, they would all fall in love with me.
Or they'd all
Not
marry
gonna
me.
happen.
Or they'd all marry me. It's not going to happen. Even though they're very polite and nice to you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm very attractive, but even I don't think that.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the bits. The other mistake is using language that has been overused. For instance, experience. You know, everybody has experience. And having experience does not necessarily mean that you do a good job. We all know the story of the roofer who says, oh, we have, or a painter that, oh, I have 25 years of experience. Well, that doesn't mean that he was doing 25 years of good work. Rather, we may choose someone over him who just painted our neighbor's house and it looks really good, even though that person only has 6 months of experience, right? So longevity does not necessarily mean quality. The second thing that people say is, I care about you, or I care, I care about the poor, or I care about your children's education. Well, everybody cares. It doesn't create a contrast. It doesn't suggest.
What have you done that proves to me that you care? What
right,
are your accomplishments?
that's what I want to know. What is your accomplishments to tell me?
Oh,
You don't have to say I care. I said to you, I have spent the last 25 years at a soup kitchen, pouring out the food for the homeless and the poor, and that I plan to continue and provide, will continue to do that, and I will seek greater funds for the homeless,
exactly.
for the homeless and for the poor.
Then
It's a whole lot better than
I know
saying
he cares.
Exactly.
I care about the poor. I care about.
So what?
So
right?
what? Whoopi, but this guy, he went out and did it. So it's better to show accomplishments than it is to use the words to say experience
And
or.
then let the
you're
voters
bad.
say, he cares.
Yeah.
He cares about the poor, and he's going to care about me.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So,
Yeah, let the voter. It's the responsive chord that Joni was talking about. Let the voter make that decision. Don't tell them.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a very simple thing. I know when I was a kid, my mother would say, oh, you should go meet young lady so-and-so. She's really beautiful, and she's lovely, and she's delightful, and you two would really get along, right? Trying to set us up. Well, that's a very bad idea. She should have just said, oh, you should go meet so-and-so. Right? And let me realize that she was brilliant, she was lovely, and that she was smart. Because if I come to that conclusion, I'm really going to hold it much stronger than if my mother tells me that I should hold this.
Definitely. Yeah.
and then the other mistake I think is like I said, politicians making the mistake that an issue that they care about or that they are good at is the issue that is going to be important to the voter. For instance, if I have a record of accomplishment on protecting the environment, and I think that pollution is really important, and I think that if we don't do anything about pollution now, we are in huge trouble. If the voter is much more worried about having a job or about the potholes in their street, then they're not going to care about the environment until those other two problems are resolved for them, or at least they know someone's going to work on it. So I think that's important.
Yeah, and I think, let me go, that the other thing I think which is important is to try, the other big mistake politicians make is that they think that there is always something in their background that is more important than it really is.
Yeah.
And let me give you an example. We had a politician once walk into our office, and we asked him, why will people vote for you? And he said, well, because I'm well known in the district. And I said, really, how are you not well known in the district, in the area? He said, I'm an internationally known cat judge. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I go around the world and I judge cats.
And everybody in my district knows that I've been written up in the newspaper.
Right? And he was actually a rancher as well, a cowboy. And I said, I think we want to talk about you being the rancher, not the cat. No, everybody knows that I'm a world famous cat judge. So of course we did a poll, found out that nobody knew he was a cat judge, and that a rancher was far more
Important because a
important.
lot of them were ranchers, and so it meant that there was a connection.
But we
But
could
that
not,
we couldn't convince him that that was important. He wanted to herald his cat knowledge.
yeah,
So what do you do? Yeah.
what do you do? So those are some of the things that we find always with politicians. Now the good politicians, and there are a few, are open-minded. They listen very well. I mean, working with Bill Clinton, tremendous listener. He, when people always talk about when you were with Bill Clinton, he made you feel as if you were the only person in the room because he was intently listening to you and what you were saying, how you were phrasing it, what were the issues that you were bringing forward, what were the values that you were seeking, and he wasn't prejudging the situation. Every person was a new situation, and
And you felt like he gave you the time of day. He wasn't rushing, even though how busy he was and everything. He just focused for those few minutes on you, and you really felt like he was listening. Yeah.
And so, the good politicians also understand their limitations, that they can't do everything, that they weren't perfect in everything, that they weren't, sent from heaven in order to save the earth, mankind, humankind, from their, from the problems that beseech us, beset us. So, that they are very realistic in their goals, and those goals are ones that resonate with people.
These were my questions. Is there anything you would like to add?
Well, just how much we've enjoyed being here.
Oh,
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope you enjoy your trip in Istanbul.
Istanbul is beautiful. We
It's
love
wonderful.
it. It's been wonderful.
Thank you.